Hi everyone. We are just waiting for some other people to join us. I think we have a couple in so far. We are, I think, a couple of minutes early. So we're just going to hang on and wait for some more people to join. And yeah, we'll be with you guys shortly. If everyone can hear me, I think. I think we can test that when everybody's in. Okay. Okay, I'm just going to do an audio kind of test while people are starting to come in. If people can hear me, can they write into the chat and just let me know that you guys can hear me and that you guys are able to hear what's going on. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Cynthia.
Hey Sarah, it's Vanessa. I can't actually see the discussion or chat. Is there any way I can see that as well on my end?
I can. So I can. Can you see the red hand on the bottom of the pane or no?
No.
I think it might be just an organizer thing.
Okay.
Well, I can keep an eye on for you and I can.
Sure, thanks.
Okay. Vanessa, if you go to the dashboard actually, and it has, you can click on the questions there.
I'm not seeing that as an option. I see webcam, audio, attendees, and chat.
Oh, okay. Maybe it's because you're panelist. Okay, we'll keep an eye on it on our end though.
Okay.
Let you know if anything comes.
That sounds good.
Okay. Still have a couple more minutes and we can wait for people to come in. Okay, it is 10 here in our time, so no one freak out that the time is wrong where you are. So yeah, it is 10 a.m. our time here, so I can see there are still a few people coming in. So I am going to get started, do a little bit of an intro for myself, for our guest speaker today, Vanessa, we're going to get into a presentation then about Giving Tuesday, getting ready, all those things. And then we're going to keep all the questions to the end, but we are going to give a lot of time at the end for questions. So yeah, we hope you guys get as much out of it as is being put into it. Yeah, I'm really excited to get started. So as a background, my name is Sarah Stritch. I am the marketing manager here at IS Payments by Deluxe. We decided this year, we love to acknowledge Giving Tuesday. We know it's such a big giving day, a big day for the nonprofit industry it is, and getting ready can be sometimes, you know, somewhat stressful, somewhat, you know, chaotic in the lead up to it. So, you know, we want to make sure that we have great resources, great content for our clients to be able to use to get ready for the biggest giving day of the year. So yeah, in the lead up to this, we have been planning out our strategy and campaign of how we can help. And Vanessa was a person for me personally who came to mind. Vanessa and I have worked together in the past in the nonprofit industry, which I loved, which was great. And I learned so much about the processes of getting set up and getting ready for Giving Tuesday from Vanessa. And this is the first of our Giving Tuesday digital campaign. We will be rolling out more content and more free resources in the lead up to Giving Tuesday so that everybody, you know, so we can help everybody be as prepared as they can possibly be. So just a little bit about Vanessa, and I'll introduce her a little bit and she can talk a bit more about herself after I'm finished. But yeah, as I said, Vanessa and I worked together before on raising donations for nonprofit campaigns, email marketing campaigns. She is a consultant specializing in the nonprofit industry. She is also an author of The Storytelling Nonprofit, a practical guide to telling stories that raise money and awareness. She also does workshops and other training around nonprofits and, you know, getting people ready for campaign times and all that great stuff. So Vanessa, I will hand it over to you and you can do a better job at explaining what you do. And yeah, I hope everyone enjoys the webinar.
Thank you so much, Sarah. I'm really delighted to be here with everybody to talk about Giving Tuesday. To say Giving Tuesday is always something I love thinking about and talking about, mostly because I'm just a major digital fundraising nerd. I run a small agency that helps organizations with email fundraising programs and digital ads. And I think there's just so much potential and possibility in digital direct response that it's just really exciting to be thinking about and planning for this, and to be prepping for success as we get into Giving Tuesday. Sarah, as we get started, I realize I don't actually have control of the slides. Oh, here we go. Never mind. Let me just get this set up for all of us. There we go. Get this going. Okay, there we go. Oh, that is not the one I wanted to share. Give me just a second here. There we go. All right, I think we're all good to go here on that. Okay, so as I said, I'm really excited to talk about Giving Tuesday and help all of you think about how to best get ready for your campaign this year. There's lots to talk about with Giving Tuesday. We will primarily focus on getting ready around email, and I'll talk about some other ways that you can expand your Giving Tuesday campaign beyond email. But to start, I just wanted to ask all of you, what are some of your goals for Giving Tuesday this year? You're welcome to share those in the discussion. Maybe Sarah can read some of them. It might be, you know, a certain dollar amount you're hoping to raise this year. I know for me in past campaigns, I focused on increasing the average gift size has been one for me. I've also run campaigns where we've had a goal of a number of donors or even a number of new donors that we're hoping to get in the door. So what is top of mind for all of you this year as you're planning your campaigns? And if you don't know yet, that's also okay. And Sarah, do you mind reading some of those out as they come in?
Yeah, we have Michael has just shared that they are excited to be participating for the first time, so that's great. That's really exciting.
Yeah, fantastic.
And we have another one that want to raise up to $30,000 with 5 new round up donors, 70 total donors. 100 social media followers. We've Laura to raise funds to support 65% of tuition for summer camp. That's great. Lee Adams, son, we're new to fundraising, want to know how to get started. That's great. This is exactly what you need. Yeah, there's some really great stuff. Everyone has really good ideas and has really nice things to be. Yeah.
Fantastic. I'm so excited to hear that. Yeah, and I would say all goals for Giving Tuesday are good goals, no matter what you're thinking about, whether it's your first campaign or maybe your fifth or sixth one. I feel like I've been doing this since Giving Tuesday started back in 2011, 2012. So it's been a while now. But I would say, every year campaigns evolve and grow, and it's good to think about setting some new goals for yourself in your campaigns. I personally, when I work with clients, always think about a good, better, best goal structure. So we're not really just angling for one thing. We're kind of looking at a goal array. And I always say the good goal is something that's very doable. It's probably based on something you've done before, or if it's your first Giving Tuesday campaign, your good goal is just executing the campaign. The better goal is raising some amount of money, and the best goal is maybe really reaching a specific goal that you have in mind for the dollar amount of the campaign, for instance. But that's kind of one of the ways I like to think about Giving Tuesday goals. So let's go ahead and talk about what we're just going to go cover here in today's training. We're going to talk about how to map out your email calendar, which is a big part of Giving Tuesday. One of the mistakes I see a lot of organizations make is that they think about Giving Tuesday as like a one-day campaign. So it's only happening just on that Tuesday. But really, there's things that need to happen before you get to that day and some things that need to happen after as well. And the other thing I would just say about that too is that the messaging goes beyond the idea that it's Giving Tuesday, make your donation. So there's some prep work we can do that we can build into the emails we may want to send to our list. And that's where we'll talk about the types of emails you may want to include in your campaign. And then I'll also just speak to briefly towards the end here about how to take your campaign beyond just Giving Tuesday itself, or not beyond Giving Tuesday, but beyond email and what else you can do with that. So let's talk about mapping out your Giving Tuesday campaign to start. I would say on this front, one of the biggest factors in email fundraising success that I consistently see across our clients and for many years now is consistency, which is really simple, right? We just have to consistently be sending emails to our list. And the reason why this is so important is that email list health is a big factor in what's possible for the amount of money you can raise from your email list. And the more you're sending to your list, keeping people engaged, getting them to click on things and open things, the more potential you have to raise money when you come to a campaign moment like Giving Tuesday. So as I said earlier, when we think about Giving Tuesday, we can't just send one email on Giving Tuesday and expect fantastic results. We've got to think a little bit more holistically about the campaign. And I also think it's important to go beyond our campaign messaging about that is just Giving Tuesday. So what I want to do before we get into thinking about what emails you're going to send and how you can really plan out your campaign is think about how to build the campaign foundation. So this is what I think about when I think about building out a campaign foundation. So I'm going to walk you through this. And then I'm also going to give you an example, and we can talk through some of your examples as well if you'd like. So when I start working on a fundraising campaign, these are the 6 pieces of information that I really want to nail down before I do anything else, before I get into writing, before I think about segmentation, before I build a giving page, like anything like that. This is really what I want to think about first. I consider these pieces of information to really be the foundation of the campaign. And this information will form the basis of your emails and again helps you develop some deeper, more compelling messaging that goes beyond it's Giving Tuesday, so make your donation. So in emails, in terms of what I know to work well in emails, there's these kind of 6 pieces that I always want to be weaving into an email. So first and foremost, there's context. I always think about this as like, what's happening? What do we want to use to get people's attention and get them to care right away? And again, the fact that it's Giving Tuesday is probably not going to be enough to hook people in right away in an email. So we've got to give them something to really sink their teeth into that relates to your organization's work and what's going on contextually for your organization and its programs. We want to give people some sort of core problem that's going on, which they're going to help be a solution to when we eventually ask them to donate. This is a really important piece of the puzzle. We need people to understand that there's a good reason we're asking for them to give. There's a problem, our organization has a solution, and we can give them a really compelling reason to donate and help us solve this problem or partner with us to solve that problem. There's also an ask, so something that's really direct and clear. And also urgency is a big piece of this. And I think on a day like Giving Tuesday, this can be a little easier to establish because maybe you have a Giving Tuesday goal you're trying to reach, something like that, where you can kind of say like, this is our 1-day Giving Tuesday campaign. You know, we're trying to raise like $20,000 by midnight tonight. Make your donation now to help us reach this goal. You can establish some time-based urgency in Giving Tuesday pretty easily. But the big things I would encourage you to focus on and think about as you're planning this campaign are really those first four: the context, core problem, solution, and compelling reason or reasons to give. They're really important pieces of the email fundraising puzzle. And the more you can kind of dig into these now and really think about them, the better prepared you'll be to move into something like figuring out what to talk about in the email sequence you want to build, and also what to talk about in each individual email you might send on Giving Tuesday. So I want to give you an example here from one of my clients' campaigns. This is from last year, the year before. For IDBC, as Sarah mentioned, we've both worked with for IDBC in the past. And this is kind of the skeletal outline of what their Giving Tuesday campaign looked like. So for context, our kind of contextual piece of information was, thousands of children in BC need additional resources, support, and equipment to thrive. That was like a big thing that we wanted to focus on. And a problem that ties into that context is too often what kids need to thrive isn't covered by health insurance. That tells us something really important right away. And kind of adding to that, the compelling reasons to give, where we're kind of raising the stakes of the fundraising appeal. We wanted to talk about how parents are often left scrambling to figure out how to cover the costs of what their child needs. And in some cases, they can't keep up with those costs. So you can see right in the beginning of those three pieces, we've told people about something that's going on. We've told them why it's a problem. And we've also added in a layer of why this problem is such a problem, if that makes sense. So it's such a problem because parents don't always have the financial resources to get their kids mobility equipment or physiotherapy or speech therapy, whatever it is their child needs to really be thriving and be able to just be a kid in some cases. And for us, the solution to that was that Variety BC and supporters can provide grants to ensure that kids have what they need. And then we rolled into an ask, by donating to Variety's Giving Tuesday campaign, you'll fund essential equipment and resources for BC's kids with special needs while giving parents a helping hand. And the urgency of that, as I kind of mentioned before, we tied into Giving Tuesday and that they had a matching donor who would be able to match the donation. So you can kind of see how that kind of comes together. And, my mind as a writer, I look at this too, and I can kind of really easily see the flow of how this would develop into an email and how we could take this information and start to tell some other stories and build narrative around it going into the campaign and then in the campaign itself. I'm happy to give another example too if folks are interested in that, just let me know. But I did want to give you all a chance to just think about what some of these pieces might be for your organization. So take a second right now and just kind of think about like contextually, and I actually even sometimes start with the core problem. What is this kind of core problem that you want to bring to light for your donors on Giving Tuesday? And what's some additional contextual information you can give your donors to help them understand why the problem is a problem? And if any of you need help thinking about this, I'm happy to lend some help here on the call. You can definitely put information in the discussion box and Sarah can read that out to me. But I think this is a really important piece to just to consider here as you're planning your Giving Tuesday campaign. And as we start talking about the emails that you can send, I think you'll see how this can start coming together and really inform some of the strategy that you have in your campaign.
So I do have one, Vanessa. We have Kelly who has asked, how do you peel the layers of hunger? Kelly?
Of hunger, okay.
Yeah.
Did she give any more information besides that, Sarah? Just curious.
No, Kelly, if you could maybe elaborate a little bit and then we can provide a little bit of context for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, I feel like this is often what I spend most of my days thinking about is how to peel back the
Yeah.
layers on these things.
So
It's
Kelly has responded
yeah.
and just said like there are so many reasons why it's a problem.
Yeah, so you just got to pick one, Kelly. This is the thing that I
Mhm.
feel like I've learned about writing direct response fundraising copy in the last decade, is that it's better to have one really compelling reason than try to give people five mediocre, less compelling reasons. So this is where you've got to use your judgment and think about which of these, really heightens the stakes for our need and a sense of urgency as to why this problem needs to be solved. And I know you might look at your list and be like, oh, well, all of them are really important, but it's really valuable to just pick one and focus on one. And I would say too, like in the case of Variety BC, like there were dozens of reasons why we could talk about why kids need need grants to have what they need to thrive. But we really wanted to focus on this one particular reason because this was by far, in this moment when we worked on the campaign, the most compelling reason we had to pitch this to people.
Mhm. We do have one
Yeah,
more, Vanessa. So
sure.
we have a question. How might we approach the layers of connecting environmental organizations across our province? In Nova Scotia, NSEN doesn't do environmental work on the ground, but we connect environmental groups in NS to each other, to the public and to the government.
Hmm. Yeah, great question. It's sometimes it can be more challenging with advocacy and policy work to figure out how to just like thread the needle on these things and make the case for it. I would kind of ask some questions here and just like probe a little bit. So I would say like, why is it valuable for these groups, this like network to be
Mhm.
connected? Number one, and what are the challenges with it being connected now? So, what are the barriers that are happening that are preventing this kind of like connection, interprovincial connection between these groups?
Mhm.
And the other question I would just ask is what what are the kind of the cons or costs of these groups not being connected? And I'm guessing it's probably related to advancing environmental policy or climate change work. But if you can kind of bring that in as well, you can show people kind of like the consequences of if we can't do this, if we can't more effectively convene people, bring people together across provinces, however you want to frame that, here's the downside of that. And that can really tie in a little bit more effectively to kind of the broader mission piece of your work.
Great. Casa said
Yeah.
that's super helpful. Thank you so much.
Okay.
So great.
Yeah,
Perfect.
absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, great. Well, I'm glad we had a chance to just workshop a couple examples. I can just also give folks another one too, if you're just kind of thinking about this for your organization. One of my other clients is the Surrey Women's Center, who works with women and children who've been impacted by gender-based violence, be it sexual assaults or domestic violence. And one of the appeals I'm currently working on for them that's not at all Giving Tuesday related, but I still use the same framework for thinking about it, is one where they're trying to raise support for a brand new legal clinic that they're opening to help domestic violence survivors. And one of the ways that I thought about positioning this and just thought about it was, they currently offer court support services where they go and accompany survivors and their families and friends to hearings. They provide them with essentially social work type support when they're in those settings, and also can help coordinate things like victim safety for them while they're going through legal proceedings. But it's not legal support, right? So to me, when I was thinking about putting this appeal together, the context is Surrey Women's Center currently offers this really important, valuable court support service to its clients. But at the end of the day, it's not legal support. And what their clients often need is real, solid legal representation. And that's why they're exploring this new project of opening up a legal clinic that's not legal aid, that's independently run to help domestic violence survivors. It's a little more nuanced than that, but just to give you kind of a top line brief of what that can look like, and just some other ways you can think about these things. Okay, great. Well, I hope it's helpful for all of you. I would definitely say that, what are we at? October 4th. So this is the work I am doing now, and I would encourage you to do now is just think about this kind of piece of your campaign puzzle. And this can extend, as I said, beyond Giving Tuesday. You could also use this as kind of a framework for how you think about your entire year-end giving campaign. It doesn't just have to be that. So once we've kind of started to build this out for ourselves and we kind of have this foundation laid for our campaign, this is where we can start to get into prepping the actual assets that we need to execute a campaign. I tell people all the time that time is your friend, and the more time you can give yourself to prep for campaigns, whether it's Giving Tuesday or any other kind of fundraising campaign you're running, the better. So prepare now, and hopefully you can relax later down the road, which is always my goal. So in that spirit, looking at things like creating your donation page, or at least plotting out changes that you need to make to your existing one for the campaign, pre-writing all your emails, creating any campaign graphics you need, and pre-writing social media posts. These are all things that you can do ahead of time so that when you're greenlit on the campaign starting to go, you are ready to go. And when you get into the campaign execution mode, instead you can focus on implementing what you've already done and also troubleshooting things. If you're noticing things are not going as according to plan for your Giving Tuesday campaign, you're not like writing an email at the 11th hour. You instead can like strategically look at what might be going wrong and try to make some changes from that place instead, which is always a really great place to be. And as I said before, the work we did on that last slide, just kind of thinking about the framework for your campaign and the foundation of it, all of that information can inform every part of this and prepping your assets, which is why I always suggest people start with that. When you think about putting together a donation page for your campaign, or even just changing your existing one, you'll be able to draw, a really great headline from some of that information you've already put together, or you can write a really short description, like a 2 or 3 sentence pitch on your donation page based on what you've already put together. But what I really want to talk about is getting into your emails, because email is a big component of Giving Tuesday. I think by far it is one of the best direct response mechanisms we have on the internet. We can get directly in front of people. It's less competitive than ads. It certainly costs a lot less than ads for us to run. And there can be a really high return on investment on email sends. So what I want to ask all of you right now, if you currently have an email program and you're sending emails to your list frequently or infrequently, how do you currently track and manage emails to your list? Do you do that within your email tool? Maybe you use MailChimp or Illuminate. Maybe you have an external spreadsheet that you track things in, maybe something else. I'd be curious to hear what kind of tools you all use to manage some of this, because this is a big piece of the success, a big piece of the pie here. Sarah, as people share some things, if you wouldn't mind just reading like 1 or 2 off to me, that would be super helpful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So we have HubSpot, we use nonprofit software called Neon One CRM, Track to Squarespace, MailChimp, Network for Good, Keelan transitioning from MailChimp. So we have a few MailChimps, which we're familiar with.
Great.
Yeah.
All
Yeah,
right, fantastic. Okay, so lots of tools. And I'll be honest, as a practitioner in email fundraising, I am pretty tool agnostic. Like if any of you are gonna ask like what should you be using, like whatever tool works best for you and your organization is always my recommendation. It doesn't have to be complicated. I don't really think there is like one best email tool for organizations to use. However, I do think that there's a piece of the puzzle that often is missing. Like, of course, we can set up emails and send things within these tools, whether it's Network for Good, other CRMs, MailChimp, anything like that. Which is why I often use an email calendar as like a missing kind of piece of the puzzle to bridge the gap between things that have gone out and tracking what needs to go out and project managing that to some extent. I think for a lot of my clients, we kind of live and breathe by live and die by the email calendar, just in that it's a place for us to proactively look to the future and manage emails that haven't been sent yet, and also for us to really get a big picture of the data from those emails. This is just a snapshot of like kind of the standard spreadsheet that I use for a lot of our client campaigns. And in an email calendar, typically what I like to do is be able to look out at least like 30 to like 60 days into the future with emails. And part of the reason for that is because a lot of campaign success depends on the momentum we get going into that campaign. Like, are we getting traction and attention on our messaging? Are we engaging people going into that campaign? and that kind of comes back to this idea of, are we keeping our list engaged and healthy? But also being able to look a little out into the future gives you the opportunity to build what's called like narrative arcs, where you can really strategically build messaging and momentum in messaging, rather than just like flipping the switch on a new campaign and talking about something brand new for the first time with your audience. There's a lot of reasons I like email calendars. That's definitely a big one. But I would suggest doing something like this, even if it's just for like a one-off campaign. You could try this just for building your Giving Tuesday campaign if you want. But long term, I do think a spreadsheet like this is a really helpful companion to whatever email tool you might be using. And in these kinds of spreadsheets for our clients, we track things like targeting. So who's the email going to? Are we excluding anyone? Are we only including certain people? I also feed in kind of some stats from the emails as well. And then also any fundraising information that we want to include in here. I didn't manage to capture this one on here, but the other metric I often track besides number of gifts and amount raised is the amount raised per email sent. So this will essentially tell me how much money I can raise based on the number of emails I've sent. And over time, that can be a really useful benchmarking number for you as you want to try to forecast more and more what's possible within your email program. So
Vanessa, there is one quick question here.
Yeah, sure.
So one question, do you have examples for compelling pleas for animal-orientated nonprofits?
Compelling pleas for animal-oriented nonprofits. I don't offhand, but I'm happy to circle back to their example. Like if they want to give us some more information later on, we can definitely come back to that at the questions at the end, Sarah.
Perfect.
Okay, great. All right, so let's talk about what you can put on your email calendar. This is a big part of it, right? It's planning out the actual campaign itself. So a kind of basic plan for Giving Tuesday emails, I like to think about kind of two phases. So there's the warm-up phase and there's the campaign phase that we have for our Giving Tuesday campaigns. I think the warm-up phase for most of my clients and campaigns that I run is anywhere from like 2 to 3 weeks in advance, where we are essentially building that narrative arc. We're trying to give people information about the context and the problem from back in the original kind of foundation of the campaign that we built. We want to tell people stories about what we can do about the problem. And we also want to start to, towards the end of that time period, pivot into how donations can help your organization make a difference towards solving this problem. So we're just sort of starting to tease this information out. For some of my clients, what this looks like is we'll send, maybe 2 emails about these top ones here, the story about the context and the problem, what we can do about the problem. And then often like a day or 2 before Giving Tuesday, we send out kind of I always think about it kind of like an announcement email in some ways of like, we're participating in Giving Tuesday this year, and here's like 2 ways you can help. You can make a donation, you can spread the word, whatever else it is you want to talk about. But it's where you're really starting to give people that like concrete information of like, we're going to ask you for a donation, and here's what we want you to know before we ask you for that donation. I think the other things that you can bake into your emails as well, in particular Giving Tuesday emails, are donor stories. I think it's wonderful to have social proof on Giving Tuesday. It is such a social campaign for a lot of organizations. If you have donors who are interested in sharing their story about why they help your organization, why they like participating in Giving Tuesday, I think those can make really wonderful emails. And also impact stories, anything that you can do that kind of speaks to the importance and the value of what your organization can do to, again, just warm up your list, start building some of that momentum. But again, like all of this information should tie back to that foundation that you built that we talked about earlier on in the presentation. That's a big piece of it for sure. And then when we get into the actual day of Giving Tuesday, my typical plan usually involves a morning ask and then an evening resend to anyone who's a non-responder. So somebody who has not opened and has not clicked on the email from that morning. Sometimes that evening email will be pretty different from the morning one. Sometimes I actually just resend the morning email, and I'll tell you why, which is counterintuitive for a lot of people. But there is like a high volume of emails coming in people's inboxes daily in general. Giving Tuesday in particular, it seems like everyone who hasn't sent an email for a while is sending emails. So you have some extra competition that day, right, to get attention in people's inboxes. So if you had a morning email on Giving Tuesday that did like pretty well for you, like you felt good about it, it raised a good amount of money, you don't necessarily need to reinvent the wheel. You can resend that same email to people who did not open it in the morning, and you'll get some additional response. I find for a lot of our clients, we get an additional 10 to 15% of the original response rate by resending the same email 12 or 24 hours later. Another email you could also send to if you are announcing a goal or really working with a specific goal number on Giving Tuesday, you could even think about doing a midday update on your progress to goal. I would say that's a especially good one if you are making great progress towards your goal. It's super motivating for donors to see that, you know, the goal is within reach. You just need a little bit more help to get there. I would say it's less motivating if you haven't made as much progress and like that momentum isn't there already, but those are definitely ones that you can consider sending on Giving Tuesday itself. So I'll just take a few minutes here to talk about beyond email fundraising, and then we can definitely go to some questions here before we wrap up. I think email is where you're probably going to see the bulk of your Giving Tuesday results. So if you're stretched thin, if you're feeling like we can really only focus on one tactic on Giving Tuesday, I would definitely recommend focusing on email. However, if you have a little bit more bandwidth or maybe a lot more bandwidth, here are some other things that you can also consider doing. I really like to think about how we can turn donors into ambassadors on the heel of a campaign. People are never as engaged as they are right after they make a donation. They have recently taken a high bar action. And so getting them to do something else is often not that much harder. Where we can
It's
just like
Deidre. This is my cell phone. I'm working from home. I have COVID.
oh,
Lovely.
hi, Sarah. We have a lot of background noise, Sarah. I don't know what's going on there.
Sorry, everyone. We just had Vanessa was unmuted there for a minute. Sorry, continue, Vanessa. Sorry.
No problem. So I'll just go back to talking about this. So one of the things that I would just say about getting kind of people to move up the engagement ladder. So when they've made a donation, they are highly engaged, and getting them to take that next step is often easier than it would be if they hadn't taken that step of making the donation. So to me, the natural next step on the engagement ladder on like with donors is getting them to become an ambassador and getting them to help spread the word about your campaign. And there's some easy ways that you can kind of bake this into your campaign. On your thank you screen or in a thank you email, you can ask for them to share a post on social media and try to get them to help that way. You know, share that they've made a Giving Tuesday donation to your organization, whatever that might be, and kind of leveraging their networks. I also sometimes have used a forward to a friend email where that, like, as soon as a donor has made a donation, usually within like an hour or two, we'll send them a secondary thank you email saying, like, you know, thank you so much for your Giving Tuesday email. You know, we're making a lot of progress towards our goal, and we would love your help in reaching our goal. Can you forward this email to a friend and ask them to make their Giving Tuesday donation? These things don't always turn into a ton of donations, but again, like, you know, acquiring a handful of additional donors on Giving Tuesday, engaging your donors in a new way, like those are all great things to be doing and to really find those super advocates for your cause. You can also explore the world of digital ads. There's a whole lot that you can do on the ads front. But again, this is going to be more costly. The return on investment is going to be lower than email. So I personally would prioritize this lower if I was short on resources. But you know, Facebook ads, Google ads are all things that can help enhance your campaign. Both have different capabilities and capacities in terms of what you can do. One of the frequent ad funnels that I use with clients is really focusing on retargeting ads to a warm audience. And so what that looks like in practice is that we run a brand awareness video ad for 2 to 3 weeks before the campaign. So in this case, it would be Giving Tuesday, to essentially build up an audience of people who have engaged with the nonprofit brand and have like seen a video for a certain amount of time. And then we follow up with a secondary ad to that audience and serve the video viewers the ask ad, where we ask them to actually make a donation. You can also do things in Facebook like upload your email list to create a custom retargeting audience. You can create a lookalike audience from that as well, which will tell Facebook to help you find people that look like your donors in other places. Lots of possibilities. And in Google Ads, one of the ads that I personally like to run that I think can be really good for Giving Tuesday, it's unfortunately not covered by Google AdWords grant if you have one of those, but it's called an inbox ad. And this is where you can serve ads directly into Gmail accounts and be able to get more directly in front of people. I personally like those a little bit better because I feel like you're dealing with less competition and noise than in a Facebook newsfeed or in Google search display ads and things like that. It feels, I think, a little bit more natural because much like with email fundraising, you're showing up right in somebody's inbox and they kind of anticipate engaging with nonprofits in that way. All right, the last one I just want to mention too is to consider activating your board. Your board members are a fantastic resource for your organization, and they can definitely be a part of your Giving Tuesday team if you help them and give them clear directions to what they need to do to help you on Giving Tuesday. So this can look like asking them to share your organization's social media posts on their personal pages, or tell them, we're going to send an email on the morning of Giving Tuesday. We want you to forward that email to 5 contacts with a personal note asking them to support our organization. Again, these should be like relatively simple, straightforward tasks for your board members to do. I would say the success in this is probably the reminding people to do that. So if you're building out like an action plan for your Giving Tuesday campaign, that Tuesday morning, sending an email to your board and reminding them to forward some emails to folks and to engage them that way is something you can do to hopefully have a little bit more success with engaging them. All right, so that just about wraps up my tips around Giving Tuesday and helping you think through your campaign and what it can really look like. If you are interested in doing some more learning with me, I do have a free training which will really get into the weeds of how to write great stories in your email. You can find that over at the Storytelling Nonprofit /free training. So if telling stories in your Giving Tuesday email sequence is something you're interested in, we would love to work with you on that, and you can go find that again over at that URL.
We do have 2 great questions, really good ones to for the end. Yeah, so we have one. So how many emails are sent to a donor in the 2 or 3 weeks before the day, once a week or more? So that's an interesting question.
Yeah, good question. I like to aim for at least once a week. I think that that's a really good thing to aim for. And then usually in that week before Giving Tuesday, I'll send one kind of earlier in the week and one within like a couple days of Giving Tuesday. So that week might have 2 emails in 1 week.
Mm-hmm. Great. And then the last question that we have is, if you have a small social media following, is it worth trying to build up followers? And do you have more info on uploading emails to Facebook?
I would think that it's probably more worthwhile to focus on growing your email list so that you have more people to solicit, more so than building a social media audience. And I only say that because most social platforms are becoming increasingly pay per play, meaning that to get in front of people, to get organic exposure is getting increasingly difficult if you're not doing ad buys. And that's just going to like add up in cost for your organization. Ultimately, you're going to see less and less traction with that. I kind of just go back to like the principles of like very basic fundraising, where we think about the concentric circles of influence, where people who are most connected to your organization are most likely to donate, and people who are connected to those people are most likely to donate. If you Google like concentric circles of fundraising. There's some like helpful graphics to give you some ideas of what that looks like. But I think in that case, like using more of like a grassroots approach is what you can do to engage people a little bit more. And that might look like combining email with some other offline strategy to reach out to new audiences. But there was a question in there as well about uploading your list to Facebook. Yes, so it's possible. You need to have an ads manager account through your Facebook page. All you'll need is the CSV file of your email list and the ads manager account, and you should be able to upload it and create a custom ads audience through there. Although, as Sarah and I well know, it is not always as straightforward as that sometimes, but I would say most of the time it is.
But effective when it does work, for sure.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Perfect. I think that's all we have on the question side. And again, everyone had amazing questions, and it's really nice to see in the question boxes, you know, people who are starting out for the first time, who are running campaigns for smaller organizations, bigger organizations, you know, and that's kind of like our philosophy here at IATS too, that we, you know, serve, you know, big, small, and everything in between nonprofits. So I was really glad to see that we kind of have a mixed bag of everyone getting involved with Giving Tuesday this year. So that was great to see.
Yeah. Yeah, it was fantastic. Well, I hope all of you have a really successful Giving Tuesday. If you have other questions, I always tell people, feel free to reach out to me anytime, whether it's today, tomorrow, a week from now, after the presentation, you've thought of a couple questions. You can reach me at vanessa@thestorytellingnonprofit.com. Happy to answer any questions that might come up for you down the road.
Yeah, and I will be, I know I had a few questions about this, so yes, I will be sharing the slides and the recording. I'm going to send that out in an email likely tomorrow morning, and I will include Vanessa's website and details there. So if any of you guys would like to get in touch with her about, you know, building out some of these campaigns or, you know, for advice, all her details and all the information will all be in that email.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Sarah. Should we wrap up, or we've answered all our questions?
Have a great rest of everyone's day. I think that's all for now. So yeah, thank you everybody for joining, and yeah, have a great Giving Tuesday.